Barty saunters further into the common room, rolling up the sleeves of his school robes with practiced nonchalance. His gaze lingers on the floating emerald hearts before catching sight of you across the room. Well, if it isn't the most dangerous creature in this dungeon, and I'm not talking about the giant squid. He flashes a grin. What's a beautiful witch doing sitting alone on Valentine's Day, waiting for someone special to serenade you? Evan Rosier snorts from the couch where he's examining a small black gift box tied with silver ribbon. Don't encourage him. Last time he sang, the suits of armor started crying. Regulus Black chuckles from his armchair, idly flipping through what appears to be a very expensive-looking Valentine card, before tossing it onto the coffee table with apparent disinterest. The firelight catches the silver embroidery on Barty's robes as he moves closer to you, his expression shifting to something more genuinely curious beneath the playful veneer. Seriously though, no secret admirer left you drowning in roses yet? Their loss. He gestures to the enchanted roses floating near the ceiling. Though I did hear Peeves stole half the deliveries from Gryffindor Tower. You look up at him with a playful glint in your eye. It appears I've scared off all the potential Casanovas this year. Or maybe you did, when you charmed every piece of mistletoe to explode when I got too close over Christmas. Either way, I'm enjoying the quiet, you say with a slight shoulder shrug. Barty throws his head back with a laugh that echoes off the stone walls, drawing glances from nearby students. He drops dramatically onto the sofa beside you. That was protective custody, darling. Those Hufflepuffs were getting ideas above their station. He winks, producing a silver flask from his robe pocket. But look at you now, Slytherin's most unattainable prize. Even Rosier's been too intimidated to send his usual terrible poetry this year. Across the room, Evan flips him off without looking up from the gift box he's now attempting to charm open. The enchanted roses overhead swirl as Barty leans closer, the scent of bergamot and something distinctly illicit clinging to him. The firelight dances across Barty's sharp features as he unscrews the flask, taking a sip before offering it to you with a raised eyebrow. The scent of fire whiskey mingles with the rose's perfume. Come on, let's give the gossip mongers something proper to whisper about. Picture it. You and me waltzing through the great hall, tossing those enchanted roses at anyone who looks too happy. He gestures toward a pair of giggling third years exchanging chocolate frogs. Starting with them. Regulus suddenly appears behind the sofa, plucking the flask from Barty's hand with silent precision. If you're going to corrupt our finest, at least use decent whiskey. He takes a measured sip before setting it on the mantel, just out of reach. The enchanted roses overhead suddenly rearrange themselves into the shape of a serpent, likely some 6th year's idea of romantic decor. Barty watches them with narrowed eyes, fingers twitching toward his wand. I could make them breathe fire. He turns back to you, the mischief in his eyes softening just slightly. Or we could find out who charmed the chocolate hearts to tell fortunes. Saw one tell not he'd die alone earlier. Glorious stuff. The common room door bursts open as Peeves comes careening through, showering the room with pink confetti that immediately turns into miniature snakes when it hits the floor. Students shriek and scramble away while Barty lets out a delighted whoop. Now that's what I call holiday spirit. He leaps over the sofa to avoid a particularly determined confetti snake. Regulus sighs and vanishes the reptiles with a lazy flick of his wand, but not before Evan gets bitten on the ankle by a sparkly one. The chaos creates the perfect cover as Barty grabs your wrist with sudden intensity, his breath warm against your ear. Quick, while everyone's distracted. There's something spectacular waiting in the astronomy tower that's definitely not school approved. His thumb brushes your pulse point, the contact electric despite the humor in his voice. Unless you'd rather stay here and watch Rosier try to hex his own Valentine's gift. Across the room, Evan's hastily cast spell backfires spectacularly, engulfing his mysterious present in purple flames. Let's go, you say, feeling the thrill of the unknown run through you. Barty's face lights up like he's just been handed the keys to Honeydukes after hours. In one fluid motion, he grabs your hand, dragging you toward the hidden passage behind the tapestry of Salazar Slytherin. That's my girl. Just don't scream when we pass Peeves and the Bloody Baron having their weekly poker game in the 3rd floor corridor. His laugh is muffled as you both duck into the narrow stone passageway, the tapestry swinging shut behind you. The hidden passage smells of damp stone and something faintly herbal, likely from Barty's frequent use of this route. Moonlight filters through occasional cracks in the walls as he leads you upward, his fingers still interlaced with yours. I promise you'll still respect me in the morning when you see what I've done to the telescope array. He throws a roguish glance over his shoulder. Though I should warn you, it involves fireworks, 3 enchanted violins, and possibly a minor felony under Wizarding Statute 394B. The steep stairs begin to level out as a cold draft signals your approach to the astronomy tower door. From beyond it comes the faint sound of music and the occasional colorful explosion. Barty crouched Jr., pausing with his hand on the door. Last chance to back out and return to sensible pursuits like whatever it is normal people do on Valentine's Day. But his grin makes it clear he already knows your answer. The heavy oak door creaks open to reveal the astronomy tower transformed. Constellations shimmer unnaturally close through charmed glass. Fireworks suspended mid-explosion form a glittering canopy, and enchanted instruments play a slow, sultry melody on their own. At the center of it all, hovering just above the stone floor, is a blanket fort made of rich emerald silk, surrounded by floating candles. Barty crouched Jr., spreading his arms with dramatic flourish. Behold, the only acceptable way to stargaze in February. He kicks off his shoes and steps onto the floating blanket, offering you a hand up. Full disclosure, I may have borrowed Dumbledore's personal stargazing charts. And by borrowed, he pulls a folded parchment from his pocket, revealing moving constellations forming heart shapes. A particularly loud firework suddenly bursts into a shower of silver sparks that morph into tiny dancing dragons. One lands on your shoulder, puffing smoke rings before dissolving. Barty crouched Jr., grinning as he plucks a chocolate frog from midair. Do I get points for effort, or are you still mad about the mistletoe incident? He flops backward onto the silken cushions, guitar case popping open to reveal not a guitar, but a bottle of vintage elf-made wine and 2 crystal glasses. The wine bottle floats from the case on its own, pouring a deep ruby liquid into the waiting glasses as Barty props himself up on one elbow. The suspended fireworks above pulse gently, casting shifting patterns across his sharp features. You know, he swirls the wine, watching the constellations reflected in its surface. This would be the perfect moment for you to confess your undying admiration. The ambiance is doing 70% of the work for me. A silver violin floats past, playing a dramatic crescendo on its own, making him snort into his glass. Outside, actual stars begin aligning in suspiciously heart-shaped formations. He sets down his wine suddenly, fishing something from his pocket, a small velvet box that emits faint blue sparks when opened, revealing not jewelry, but a tiny animated galaxy swirling inside. Made this in astronomy last week when I was supposed to be charting Uranus's orbit. His smirk falters just slightly as the miniature cosmos casts dancing lights across both your faces. Figured you'd appreciate a universe where it's always Valentine's Day and Filch can't ruin the fun. The blanket fort sways gently as if caught in a celestial breeze, leaving you suspended between the real stars and Barty's created ones. Barty, it's beautiful, but you're looking at the light dancing across his face when you say it. The floating candles flicker as Barty's usual smirk softens into something genuine. The enchanted violin hits a sustained high note before quieting, as if holding its breath. Barty's voice is uncharacteristically quiet. Careful now. That almost sounded sentimental. He reaches up to brush a strand of hair behind your ear, fingers lingering a moment too long to play it off as casual. The miniature galaxy in his palm pulses brighter, casting his dark eyes in starlight. One of the suspended fireworks chooses that moment to erupt into a cascade of emerald sparks that slowly form the words, "Kiss her already," in fancy script before dissolving. Barty groans, rubbing his face. Bloody hell, Rozier must have tampered with the charms. But when he looks back at you, there's no trace of his usual mocking humor, just the faintest pink at the tips of his ears. Though, he's not entirely wrong. The silk blankets shift beneath you as the astronomy tower's wind chimes tinkle softly, the real stars outside aligning perfectly with the enchanted ones swirling between you. The suspended instruments suddenly switch to playing a slow, romantic waltz as the enchanted galaxy floats upward, casting the entire blanket fort in a dreamy nebula glow. Barty's fingers tighten imperceptibly around yours where they rest against the silk cushions. Barty's voice dropping to a murmur. Suppose this is the part where I should say something clever. His free hand comes up to cradle your face, a thumb brushing your cheekbone as the final firework bursts into a shower of gold that rains down around you like warm snow. Barty's breath ghosting over your lips. But I think I'd rather just shut up for once. The enchanted roses from the common room suddenly come whizzing through the tower door, circling overhead like celestial bodies as the moment stretches, golden and weightless. The roses overhead explode into a shower of crimson petals that catch in your hair, as Barty finally closes the distance. His lips taste like stolen fire whiskey and the chocolate frogs from earlier, warm and sweet and just a little reckless. The blanket fort sways gently, as if rocked by the same dizzying current now coursing through your veins. When he finally pulls back, far too soon, his usual smirk is softer at the edges, his thumb tracing idle patterns against your wrist. That's one way to make Valentine's Day memorable. He plucks a rose petal from your hair, examining it before tucking it behind your ear with exaggerated care. Though I should warn you, now that I know you can be rendered speechless, I will be abusing that power. The enchanted violin starts up again with a jaunty tune as if applauding. His fingers lace through yours, warm and sure, as the stars burn brighter overhead, real and charmed alike. The tower door suddenly bursts open, not with Peeve's usual chaos, but with Regulus Black leaning against the frame, one eyebrow arched. A plume of suspicious purple smoke wafts in. Rosier set his robes on fire. Again. He eyes the blanket fort, the floating violins, the lingering rose petals in your hair, then shakes his head. Merlin's sake, Barty, could you be more obvious? Barty doesn't even have the decency to look chastised. He just grins, throwing an arm around your shoulders as the last of the fireworks fizzle into embers above. Oh, I don't know, Reg. Maybe if I proposed in the Great Hall at breakfast. Could arrange that, if you'd prefer a real spectacle. Regulus rolls his eyes so hard it looks painful, but you catch the faintest smirk as he turns to leave. Just don't come crying to me when McGonagall catches you two snogging in the Astronomy Tower. Again. The door clicks shut. Barty's laughter lingers in the air, warm and bright, as the real stars outside finally outshine the charmed ones, but just barely. Barty tugging you closer. Now, where were we? The enchanted galaxy swirls lazily above your heads, as Barty leans back against the silk cushions, pulling you with him. His heartbeat thrums steady under your palm, betraying none of his usual restless energy, just quiet contentment. Barty tracing idle patterns on your shoulder. You realize this means I'll have to outdo myself next year. Thinking volcano in the Great Hall, lava chocolates, dragons spelling your name in fire. He pauses, feigning deep thought. Or I could just recycle the exploding mistletoe. Classic never goes out of style. Then suddenly serious. For the record, you're the only person who'd follow me into a clearly illegal astronomy tower setup and call it beautiful. His smirk returns, but his fingers tighten around yours, which either makes you dangerously brilliant or just as mad as I am. Either way, a rogue firework pops in the distance. I'm keeping you. The decision hangs between you, as weightless and inevitable as the enchanted rose petals still drifting through the air, proof that even Slytherin schemes can sometimes, just sometimes, lead to magic. You move a little closer to him. Keeping me? You smirk. I'll allow it. Barty's grin turns wolfish in the dim light, fingers threading through yours as he pulls you flush against him. The enchanted galaxy above pulses in time with his heartbeat, steady for once, instead of its usual frantic rhythm. Oh, you'll allow it? His free hand ghosts up your arm, leaving goosebumps in its wake. Dangerous words, darling. Next, you'll be allowing me to serenade you in the common room at 3 in the morning. A stray firework from his earlier setup suddenly detonates near the ceiling, showering you both in harmless silver sparks. He doesn't even flinch, just leans in until his lips brush your ear, voice dropping to a whisper. Or allowing me to steal you away to Hogsmeade every weekend. Teeth graze your earlobe. Playful. Merlin, help us both if you keep being this accommodating. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the tower windows, but inside his makeshift fortress of silk and stolen stars, the world feels perfectly, recklessly still. Barty pulling back just enough to meet your eyes, smirk softening. Lucky me. The moment stretches, suspended like the embers of dying fireworks, before Barty crashes into you with bruising intensity. His lips are warm and familiar now, tasting of stolen wine and the sharp thrill of midnight mischief. His hands slide down to your waist, pulling you closer until there's no space left for doubt, for hesitation, for anything but this. When he finally pulls away, just far enough to press his forehead to yours, you're going to be the death of me. His breath hitches as your fingers tighten in his hair. And Merlin, what a way to go. The enchanted galaxy above you shatters into 1,000 falling stars, dousing the tower in liquid silver light. His voice is rough with something far more honest than mischief. Again, then. And he does. The enchanted violins swell into a final, triumphant crescendo as Barty deepens the kiss. One hand cradling the back of your neck, while the other presses against the small of your back. The silk blankets beneath you ripple as if stirred by some celestial current, and the last rose petals catching in your joined hands like captured stardust. Barty whispering, "Happy Valentine's Day, you absolute menace."